I have always lived between extremes, between moments of too much and too little, between silence and static, between an overwhelming flood of thoughts and the heavy gravity of numbness. Some call this disorder. I call it the deep end of being, because my disorders are lenses I see through, constantly shifting focus, sometimes distorting and sometimes clarifying what others might miss, and yet, in this shifting landscape, I have come to a profound belief that objectivity isn't the absence of subjectivity, but the harmony between multiple perspectives, including my own. From the outside, people often imagine objectivity as a cold, detached neutrality, as if truth lives in a sterile, untouched place, far from emotion or individual experience, but for those of us who experience the world intensely and differently, objectivity is not distance. It's integration. It's the practice of acknowledging our perceptions and questioning them, not to erase our viewpoint, but to enrich it. Take ADHD, for example. Anyone who knows me will tell you my attention moves like light refracted through a prism, darting, scattering, catching on unexpected truths, or occasionally squirrels. Some call it distraction, I call it an expanded field of view. In a world trained to value linear focus, my perspective challenges the hierarchy of importance. Why must only the main idea matter? Sometimes the beauty is in the tangent, the margin, the footnote. From my mind's erratic orbit, I've learned to see the value in the overlooked. Isn't objectivity, at its best, the inclusion of all relevant data, even the things most people skip? Autism brings its own kind of clarity. While others may be swept along by social cues and surface impressions, my mind gravitates toward patterns and consistency. I seek out structure, not to confine, but to understand. I might miss the vibe of a room, but I notice contradictions in words, insincerity in tone, or the beauty in systems others find mundane. My world is rich in details, textures, repetitions, and through this lens, truth becomes not a feeling, but a shape. In this way, autism is not a distortion of perspective, but an alternate map of reality. And every good cartographer knows, more than one map makes the terrain clearer. Then there's bipolar disorder, a mind that moves between elation and despair, sometimes in the span of a day. These moods color everything, yes, but they also teach contrast. When a person is high, the world sings with possibility. When low, they hear its sorrowful whispers. It takes years to stop fearing the swing and start listening to it. Mania teaches that optimism can be blinding and depression teaches that pessimism can be honest. Between them, we find balance, not a numb middle, but a place where truth can hold both light and shadow. Perspective is not about avoiding feeling, it's about recognizing the validity and the limits of each emotion, and letting them converse rather than compete. So where does objectivity live in all of this? It lives in the act of witnessing, not just the world, but ourselves in relation to it. Objectivity is not the removal of bias, but the awareness of it, and who better to understand bias than someone whose mind constantly reconfigures reality, sometimes without permission. To live with mental health conditions is to be forced into radical introspection, and from that, I've learned that objectivity doesn't mean erasing myself from the equation, it means knowing exactly where I stand in it. In truth, every person sees the world through a lens. Mine just has more filters, more contrasts, and sometimes the exposure is way off. But within that kaleidoscope, I've developed a sensitivity to nuance, a reverence for multiplicity. I don't claim to have a clear view, but I have a curious one. I ask questions others overlook, because I can't help but see from different angles. And perhaps, in a world increasingly fractured by echo chambers and rigid thinking, neurodiverse minds are exactly what objectivity needs, not neutrality, but plurality. Perspective and objectivity aren't opposites. They are dance partners. One grounds us, the other lifts us. Together, they help us step out of the cage of certainty into something richer, something more human. And from this vibrant, chaotic, sometimes overwhelming mind, I can tell you, clarity is not the absence of noise. It's the moment you realize the noise has something to say. Sometimes I like to listen to the noise.